I keep changing my mind and why it has led to my biggest accomplishments. Some phrases and notions we have been told to live our lives by. Slow and steady wins the race. Patience is a virtue. You should see things through. Stay on task. These are all good pieces of advice, unless you're me. Most people who know me know that I'm very passionate. Passion permeates both my personal and professional life. Some would say to a fault, or at least to the point where my message can get lost. I think it's my greatest asset. It has been what has allowed me to evaluate my current course, then shift directions, projects, and even careers in a way that have brought me both success and great happiness. When I decided to go off to college, I knew exactly what I wanted to study. You should have heard the shock in my father's voice when I declared excitedly, I am officially an aviation major. My passion was to become a pilot. I'd been flying since I was 15. But that all changed in college when I was diagnosed with Crohn's disease. At the time, there was no medical protocol, and few doctors even understood how to treat me. So I was sick. And flying became not only dangerous, but the FAA made the decision that it was in my best interest, and probably all of yours, that I keep my feet on the ground. Having my wings metaphorically clipped while trying to manage a disease left me devastated. I knew I had to find something I could be passionate about to keep my mind off this major blow to my plan. I'd always loved the arts, and my doctors encouraged me to pursue them. So, in my third year of college, I changed my major and my college and decided to immerse myself in the world of art. Now, this world was the exact opposite of aviation. In fact, the only thing they had in common was they both started with the letter A. Aviation was stressful, full of calculations, precision, and preparation. The arts were therapeutic, creative, inspiring, and free. I embraced this newfound major with open arms. As a 20-year-old art major, my parents laughed and constantly pushed me to change my major to business or economics, anything that they deemed useful to having a career. I had no idea what I was going to do when I graduated, and I think that that gave me the freedom to enjoy my education and to dream about all the possibilities my future held. Besides, who has time to think of a career when you're gazing at Monets? Not long after my love affair with the arts began, I met the one true love of my life, my partner in all things, and my soon-to-be husband, Phil. It was Phil who introduced me to the world of stained glass. I soon learned to hand cut and build glass, and I realized I have found a new love. I was absolutely smitten with the world of stained glass. I became obsessed. I was learning old world glass techniques and studying the works of the famed Louis Comfort Tiffany, who was not only an art glass manufacturer, but he started his career as a plein air painter. Glass became my world. It was full of endless possibilities, and I knew this is what I was going to do for the rest of my life. But that in itself presented a new challenge. I had no money, I had no place to work, I had no business expertise, but I did have passion and a wonderful partner who said he would support me in this endeavor. With $200 and a dream, I began McMow Art Glass in our garage. I designed and created stained glass windows, lamps, and jewelry boxes. I took my creations on the road, lugging them to art shows all over Florida. One day, I was presented with an option to rent a space inside of a small thrift shop. After 3 months, the thrift shop was going under, and I was actually making a living, and I decided I'm going to take the entire space. This was a terrifying transition. I now knew I had to hustle and make this work. I don't like failure, I don't do it very well, and so there was no turning back. From 9 to 5, I was all things McMow Art Glass. But the other 5 hours of the day, I picked any side job that I could find, including delivering newspapers, 5 a.m. every morning. All the extra income went straight into McMow. Eventually, I needed an employee, and I was confident that I could actually pay them. So I hired my husband, and he willingly came to McMow as my new business partner. Little by little, the business began to grow. This is our first truck. I made a deal with a local glass retailer to partner with me. He would set up and run a retail component within the McMow studio. So now I could sell commissions for custom art, we could teach classes, and our students had a place to purchase their supplies within our studio. But after only a few months, my retail partner said he was over it. It was just too hard. So we decided, and this was frightening, to buy him out. And now we had a retail studio to run as well. I knew we had to do it all. We had to be the best we could be, better than anyone. We learned every possible glass technique we could, and we were doing great. We began to pick projects for clients all over South Florida, but I wanted to keep growing. I started to go to construction sites and to introduce our product. I stepped out of my little blue Datsun pickup truck for the first time, and it was then that I realized my next big obstacle. I was the only woman on the construction site, and I was very easily overlooked. This was the first time I realized gender can be an obstacle. It was a difficulty I had faced as a female aviation major in the early 70s, but I was too young to fully realize the challenge, and I really didn't care at that time. So looking back, I realized I had already learned from my past experience. That feeling came flooding back, and I knew exactly what I needed to do. I had to prove myself. My sheer determination without thoughtfulness would be what pulled me through this challenge. I was passionate to fly, and now I was passionate to make McMow successful. Sometimes you can't think, you just have to do, because you are trusting in your gut. I decided to focus on our design work, and I showed up every day. I showed to the job sites, I showed our glass pieces, I would listen to the men speaking with each other about other subcontractors, and they would say things like, "We're not working with that guy, he's unreliable. We don't like the product that they came up with when they were finished." And I thought to myself, this is my one shot. I can always be here. I can always show them I'm going to be on time. And with a handshake, I'm going to prove to them I'm going to do what I say I'm going to do, when I say I'm going to do it, and it's going to be the best they've ever seen. That is what slowly got me into the door. It was around that time I realized something very important. Without planning it, I had become a small business owner in one of the toughest fields to actually make a living, art, which I constantly reminded my parents. This feeling was so empowering to me. I started to think of all the things I might possibly want to do with my life. I knew if I could say it out loud, I could make it happen. I decided I really wanted to push the boundaries of design for glass. I worked tirelessly on each project until it was perfect, driving my colleagues crazy. And I wanted it to represent the impression that McMow would leave on the art world. Next, I decided I wanted to write a book. So I did. I worked with a local publisher, and I created a book detailing McMow's designs and inspirations, which you can still purchase today. Being part of the small business community in South Florida was important to me, and I wanted to help others get to where McMow was, especially young women. I thought about all the obstacles I had faced trying to start McMow Art Glass. I felt there must be an easier way. So I set out to create a package of all the documents and paperwork one would need to start a small business, and I called it ProPack. I went to trade shows, I taught classes on how to use ProPack, and continued to encourage others to take the same journey I had. McMow and my many business ventures were moving full speed ahead. We had officially purchased our first building, and we were working with celebrities, top designers, and architects. This is a photograph inside the now deceased and famed Gianni Versace in South Beach. Mr. Versace hired me, and I worked with him for 4 years and created stained glass windows for every opening, window, door, and other locations we could find within the house. And if you look at the upper right-hand photograph, behind the gentleman in the middle's head is an example of our stained glass windows, tucked between 2 Picassos and Sting. Through all these experiences and challenges, we learned we had to keep on embracing what had to be learned. These are domes that needed to be, I needed to learn engineering techniques in order to be able to create front entryways, florals, ecclesiastical work. The houses of worship were the hardest to break into and the things I'm the most proud of. And this taught us another new technique, glass painting, which was something that I learned from studying Louis Comfort Tiffany. This is Palm Beach Atlantic University. This is their chapel. We started to do glass painting in the traditional way, and then I thought, why not do glass painting in the less traditional way so that we can make our pieces more alive? We also learned we could not be just traditional, that in South Florida especially, we needed to also be very contemporary. A local church, very contemporary, bright colors. Vizcaya. A lot of restoration happens in this area because of Palm Beach and because of some of the historic locations. And we happen to be very good at it. A home in New Jersey stairwell. We started to ship all over the world. I remember through all of these experiences and challenges, my husband and I were also building a family. In fact, we now had 3 beautiful children. I have to say, the passion I felt for my children is probably the most profound thing I have ever felt. I remember watching my kids one day as they were playing in our front yard. I also remember the sight of a city bus flying down our street at 50 miles per hour. It was at that moment that I realized I was going to put on a new hat, community activist. Every block in every neighborhood in West Palm Beach has their version of my city bus. My job as a city commissioner is to help my constituents overcome their obstacles and challenges, improve the quality of their life, deal with their city bus. Being a public servant is my passion now. Throughout my life, I have worn many hats. College student, wife, artist, entrepreneur, mother, community activist, friend, and now city commissioner. That's my daughter. But I didn't grow up thinking I was going to run for office and be an elected official. I saw a problem and I tackled it. That's how I've lived my life. That's how I've built a business, and that's how I grew a family. Now, that's how I run my role as a commissioner. Past experiences influence my current thinking, but my decisions to shift are more instinct and gut than natural progression. Contrary to perception, I've never had a life plan filled with 10-year goals. Instead, I've allowed myself to dream, and dream big. It's what keeps me going. I make mistakes, and I work towards solutions. Every time I've made a change, it wasn't without fear or trepidation, but I trusted in myself, and that not all good decisions are the result of a long thought process. Sometimes they just come from the trust in yourself and your past experiences. Your own resiliency will progress your path forward. Thank you.